Hey, I want to welcome you back to another one of our mini messages, and today we're still over in Genesis chapter 18. Now, we're picking up in verse 6, and this is really just a smooth continuation of the first 5 verses. As we have seen the Lord and 2 angels, we're going to see that that's who this is, have shown up to see Abraham. This is very quickly, maybe a month, 2 months at most, since chapter 17, when the Lord appeared to Abraham and gave him the sign of the covenant, the circumcision. And so Abraham is really on point preparing food. So let's look at what happens here in verse 6. It says, "So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, 'Quick, make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it, and make cakes.' And Abraham ran to the herd and took a tender good calf, gave it to a young man, and he hastened to prepare it. So he took butter and milk and the calf which he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree as they ate." Now, we may think this is a lot, but this culture was so different in the way that they handled hospitality. You're going to see that when in Sodom and Gomorrah, there's some things that in our culture we look at and we're like, Lot did what? So this is a little bit of an extension of that they always went above and beyond. And then understand something else. Abraham knew who he was talking to. He knew this was the Lord. I think he knew these were angels. And so he goes so far above, so far beyond. I mean, when you go back up to the first 5 verses, you see him fall on his face before these men. He bows low before them. He calls him Lord. So he knows who he's dealing with. So, think about it. If Jesus literally came to your house, would you roll out the red carpet? I mean, we get out the good dishes, right? The ones that we don't let anybody else eat on unless, some really important companies coming over. We'll pull those out. That's what's happening here. He's pulling out the good dishes. So in the middle of this, he's taking care of these important guests. And look at verse 9. It says, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" the visitor asked. "She's inside the tent," Abraham replied. Then one of them said, "I'll return to you about this time next year, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Okay, he's repeating this same promise again that he had just given him a few months prior in Genesis 17. Now, it appears there was a good period of time between Genesis 17 and the previous time the Lord appeared to Abraham like this. We're talking like 12, 13 years. So why would he come back so quickly in the middle of this? Why repeat this? I think it was becoming so close to the time that he was trying to bolster their faith. He was trying to get them to the place of really trusting and really believing, because we need to hear God's promises over and over. That's something that I think we discount a lot. I need God to remind me of what He's promised me of. Because when I get caught up in my circumstances of life and what's happening around me, it very quickly can spiral out of control and I forget what God has said. It's not that it necessarily leaves my mind totally, but it's not at the front of my mind. And as I look around at the world and I see what's happening around me, it's easy to take my focus off of God. That's what happened to Peter, right? When he steps out of the boat in the Gospels and he starts to try to walk towards Jesus. The Bible says he began to look around and he sees the storm raging around and began to sink. He took his eyes off God. So here, I think God is trying to keep them from taking their eyes off Him and maintain focus on what is really important in this situation. What's really happening here? So they needed this visit for some encouragement and for some reminder. And as we go through the rest of this chapter, you'll see there's another conversation that happens that is also incredibly important in this particular conversation. So we hope that you have a blessed day. Be back tomorrow to hear the next part of this.